Right, so cognitive dissonance, a new topic in the course. Alright, so if students finish this lesson just knowing what cognitive dissonance is and can comprehend that, that is a win. We cover it again in couples. So again, another benefit of covering these topics in multiple units is that if they only just get to this first level of understanding what is, they can get to the why in a later unit. Blue Kit, it's a fun one. The kids love crypto hack. Racist babies, that's just a bit of a silly title that gets students engaged. But anyway, this is a review. It's giving an alternative look. It's not about cognitive dissonance. This is linking back, reviewing to the idea that, okay, well, maybe it's, we are prejudiced and discriminate against others who are different to us because of the groups we belong to. Actually, we might have just evolved in this. And I really like Paul Bloom's TED Talk on prejudice discrimination. And I explain to my class to students, it's fine to be prejudiced. It's fine to discriminate. Now, you think, what? Because when we hear those words, we think racial discrimination, racial prejudice, and we think of it in a negative way. If we think through actually what that means, I'm going to prejudge someone based on how they look. It's how my brain works. I know that's how my brain works. I've got to stop myself from treating them badly and negatively discriminating against them because of how they look. So I've got that's that system 1 versus system 2 thinking. If I'm aware of my system 1 thinking, which my brain is going to do for sure, if you don't stereotype, you're lying, then I can stop myself by using my system 2 thinking and overriding that. Now, discrimination, I don't indiscriminately throw out love and affection. I'm very discriminate about whom I give that to. I don't indiscriminately throw away money, right? I discriminate. I give more money to my family than I do to other people. So anyway, I just like to challenge that idea and sort of break down, okay, what do we mean when we say discriminate? Prejudice. Yes, negative, right? To treat someone differently based on the group they belong to treat someone negatively, of course, that's bad. But some discrimination makes sense. Right, now getting to the cult, the seekers, just a slide here. This is basically taken from the paragraph in the textbook. Students could read this if they preferred, or we can explain to them. Really interesting idea. They thought they would be taken away in a spaceship. This is the group that Fessinger studied. And then just getting them to think, all right, well, when they realized the world wasn't going to end, what do you think these things called? Yeah, what do you think they did? All right, in a minute, students discuss. What do they think? By the way, all my think pair shares are 1 minute. I've got a kitchen timer. That's the perfect amount of time, I've found. All right, and then we say, look, all but one stayed in the cult, and we'll look at why that might have been. That's cognitive dissonance. Another classic Simpsons reference. This is where he's trying to draw dignity. Anyway, again, an activity that's designed to get students thinking about the content, get them to try to diagram it. And this might be one of those where I can see how this can be diagrammed. It might be harder for them, but give it a go. Doesn't matter what they come up with. It's just getting them to read and engage and think and read and try to comprehend for a purpose in mind to be able to create this diagram. That's an animation error. Whoops. Okay. All right, so there's the space. And I've got some labels here that they could try to put in. All right. Then some chalk and talk slides. I've done my best to try to diagram it here. And I think it makes sense to start with cognitive consistency. This makes more sense than cognitive dissonance. So we have cognitive consistency is, right, we've got our thoughts and actions are consistent with one another. We're happy. Everything's good. All right. We want this. It feels nice, right? We want cognitive consistency. Because cognitive dissonance is really, really misdefined a lot of the times when people define it as having inconsistent thoughts. Like, it's not the incompatible, inconsistent thoughts that's cognitive dissonance. This guy here is experiencing cognitive dissonance. It's the unpleasant feeling caused by this. That's what it is. Okay? And so, sorry, I'm explaining to this like you don't know. And then I give the example from the Seekers cult. Okay, so they had cognitive dissonance. Their thought one was trust, believe the leader, the teachers of the cult. My leader is right and knowing, and oh my gosh, he got all these insights to the world. This is amazing. Thought two, when they realized the world wasn't going to end, hang on, now I've got cognitive dissonance. Now I don't feel good. I believe everything this guy says, and now it turns out to be wrong. What's going to happen, right? So then we get to, okay, well, how does this change behavior? It changes behavior because we want to go back to that nice feeling where everything's consistent again. So I have to change one of my thoughts or actions. So when they're in conflict with each other, I go, all right, let's change it, and then now I've got my cognitive consistency. Okay, vaping is a good example. People are vaping like, I'm trying to be healthy, but I vape. So they change one of those thoughts to go, well, there's not enough research around to know that vaping is unhealthy. So now I can continue vaping with my new belief, and I have cognitive consistency. Okay, a bit of chalk and talk about Fessinger and his study of the seekers. And then my slides don't work. Here we go. And this one, I don't know if how students will. Most students will struggle with this. I think only a few students in your class, maybe a couple, will be able to predict this. Again, I think it's better to try to get them to think about the study first by themselves, and then chalk and talk it later. But just explain the methods, and then say who enjoyed the task more, or I should have wrote there who said they enjoyed the task more. The $1 or $10 $20 group, and can they use Fessinger's study? Okay, and then here are the chalk and talk slides to explain it. All right, and just quickly, the $20 group didn't have to. It was a boring task. They can say, I got paid to lie. I got a good pay for it. That's why I lied. The $1 group are like, that was a boring task, but I just told someone it was enjoyable. Okay, I've got to change something here to get back cognitive consistency. Okay, well, I'm going to think of it as an enjoyable task. So now we go. I told someone it was enjoyable, and I felt it was enjoyable. Ergo, now I've got cognitive consistency. So students have really got, three options here for the exams. They can write about this study. They can write about the seekers. They can write about a real life example. I wouldn't be talking about what choice they can make for the exams. You can talk about what choice they make for their test at the end of your unit, but remember when we get to couples, they've got a whole nother explanation of cognitive dissonance, and cognitive dissonance could explain divorce, which is really useful because you can double that up in the essay in human relationships, because it's a cognitive explanation for why relationships end. All right, workbook notes. This is the TED Talk by Paul Bloom that I really like, and got just a guiding question there for students to answer. And I'm pretty sure he talks about prejudice being a good thing. He might be talking about stereotypes being a good thing, or even at least natural. Give some background into social identity theory, or you could get all students to attempt the critical thinking extension. So this slide, of course, is for you to edit. A note on the critical thinking extensions, you can see them down here. This is really an extra for experts. Really what these are doing are drip feeding in content. It's just, it's some drip feeding in some additional key terms relevant to research methodology that will be covered later in the course, but are there to challenge students who are ready for it. But, I wouldn't even be going over the answers of these in class. I would just be talking to the individual students if they wanted feedback. That was just me. All right, one more lesson to go.